We're talking push trucks, PA posse, really big right rear wheels, and racing on dirt. From Silver Dollar to Williams Grove, Eldora to Devil's Bowl, and of course, Knoxville. This is Winged Nation, presented by Hercules Tires. Now your hosts, Steve Post and Erin Evernham.
Hello again. It is MRN Winged Nation, presented by Hercules Tire, talking sprint car racing, our favorite time of the week. And we have a great program for you. So glad you joined us. Greg Wilson. Well, the highs and lows of sprint car racing is what it's been like for the last 7 or 8 days for Greg. We will chat with him. Greg Hodnett has been all good news for Greg Hodnett. Probably catching him after a trip to the bank, I'm assuming, maybe making that big Tuesday morning deposit after scoring a lot of win and a lot of cash this past weekend. And Doug Auld joins us from Sprint Car and Midget Magazine. It's a great show. We are so glad you joined us. Erin Evernham and Steve Post here. And Erin, I think we mentioned it in passing at the end of last week's show that you were going to Indy, but you had a trip of a lifetime to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on the 500.
It truly was a trip of a lifetime. Unbelievable. To be in that environment, it's hard to describe. The tradition that goes with the Indy 500, the sellout crowd. I mean, there was people everywhere. And I met so many sprint car fans and people in the industry that I hadn't seen in years. It was honestly a weekend that I can't even describe.
It was because the road to Indy used to be through sprint cars.
Yeah.
Now, we understand that has changed drastically. We don't know where the road to anywhere leads because you get to wherever you need to go. But the thing of it is, Erin, is that you did mention it. This was sprint car, open wheel, big cars, silver crown car. This was what that was, what you ran into. Absolutely.
And they had, I want to say 28 previous winners of the Indy 500 that they all paced the field in Camaros. And to see people like AJ Foyt and Mario Andretti and Rick Mears, like all these, it was incredible. And to know that, they were racing the dirt tracks all around Indy and then they'd come run the 500. It was just indescribable, seriously.
Speaking, I want to speak about racing the tracks around. Well, let's do that now. Brian Clausen. How about that?
Yeah.
28th in the 500 and then went and won Kokomo that night.
That was spectacular. And he led a lap. He led the 100th lap of the 100th Indianapolis 500.
Wow.
It was really cool.
They had bus loads, and I think Brian told us this. They had bus loads that went up to Kokomo, and you want to talk about a thrill. You imagine being on that bus trip, and when he won that race at Kokomo, that had to be
had to be awesome. I said to Ray, we should head out after the race, but when you have, 400,000, 500,000 people, the idea of getting out of there and not being on one of those buses, I think we'll just stay here.
There was a tweet from Lauren, his longtime girlfriend, of trying to get through. Fiancé.
Yeah.
You
man. Missed the big news.
Postman missed. I did. Now that you mentioned that, I think I did see that. But her trying to weave through traffic because her quote was, "We got to get to Kokomo. We got to get to Kokomo."
And there's just a picture of a crowd. Like she couldn't even. Pit road before the race, and it was just jam-packed. The energy there was unbelievable.
Sounds really cool. Now, you were up there, and of course, married to Ray Evernham, and Ray restores cars. What a project he had with Mario Andretti's car. Tell us a little bit about that.
So he found Mario Andretti's rookie car a few years back, and he found the chassis, and then he had to go find the guy who had more of the parts of the car. So they ended up combining two cars to make it's almost completely original. But the coolest part about it was he had Jim McGee restore the car. Now, Jim McGee was Mario's crew chief that year. And Jim McGee has won the Indy 500, I think, 5 times, and he's been a 9-time champion. And to watch him on Sunday tuning the car before Mario made his pace laps, was the neatest thing I think I've ever experienced. It was like he was in his element 51 years later. There he is warming up the exact same car for Mario to get in and drive. It was, I gave me a little teary actually.
I'm getting chills.
It was unbelievable. And I just watched him. He was like playing with the throttle and warming it up, and it was like he was back in crew chief mode 51 years later.
What was Mario's reaction to all of this?
He was so excited about it. Now, Mario is running 100 miles an hour.
Sure,
not only does
I saw
he
him
do
with Lady Gaga.
Holding hands with her. He drives the 2-seater, and then they did the pace laps and the Camaros with all the previous winners. So he was going 100 miles an hour, but he was really excited to be back in the car. I think he sent Ray a nice message after the race.
Wow.
Yeah. It was, and I got a picture with our daughter, with Mario, before the race. That was really
That's
special.
one. Yeah, that's one for the
Although
lifetime
she
there.
was a little unhappy that we had to pull her out of the seat to put Mario in it.
Yeah, you were showing me pictures before. Your young daughter, all of
10
months,
Yeah.
okay, is very, very happy with one thing in her hand, a steering wheel.
Yeah, it was all a big joke until it's like a real problem. I couldn't get her out of the car, and I'd sit her in the car, and she grabs the steering wheel right away, and then I'd say vroom vroom, and she gets this huge smile on her face. And we had a golf cart to get around in the infield, and I could not get her off the golf cart. We took her to the Blake Shelton concert. We had backstage passes, hanging out. It was like an incredible experience. I couldn't get her off the golf cart. I missed half the concert because I couldn't get her off the steering wheel. Like, I thought it was a big joke, but yeah, Ray's already ready to order quarter midgets.
Really? Yeah.
He's
what age do they? What is the minimum age on quarter midgets?
It used to be 5. I think it's 5. But you got to start testing.
Well, the one thing we will say about the future career of Kate, she gets it honest. We'll say that.
Yeah. And she will have fast cars if she chooses to drive.
That is so exciting. Wow. I was just, I live, we had the World of Outlaws here on Friday night, so I was like a pig in slop, if you will. I mean, I'm just in my element. And I very rarely in my life, just the way I choose to live my life, I don't ever say, man, I wish I was here.
Yeah.
I love where I'm at. No matter where I'm at, I make the best of it. But I'm telling you, I was following along a little bit social media. It was really, really cool.
I know. Thank you. And I kind of felt that way about here. The World of Outlaws are finally coming to our hometown. I'm leaving. But that kind of passed pretty quick when I was at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
I guess so. Good for you. That is so cool. Let's take a
bucket list experience.
Bucket list checked off.
Yeah.
The 100th running of the Indianapolis 500. A great race, great rookie winner. So I mean,
American driver. Very good for him.
So cool. So many good things, and really, really happy, and really happy for the whole process along the way. Let's take a look at our Valco Racing Wheels results page. World of Outlaw Craftsman Sprint Cars Friday night. What a thriller! Oh, my gosh. We're going to talk to Greg Wilson in a little bit, but he was third with 2 laps to go.
So cool.
And he won the race.
Led one lap,
and that's all that mattered over Shane Stewart and Cole Duncan. Cole Duncan, another great story.
Yeah.
I thought if you'd asked me for 28 and a half laps, just watching that race and watching who was moving around, it was an interesting race. For 28 and a half laps, I believed until a lap and a half to go, Cole Duncan was still going to win that race. I mean, I know you're talking Shane Stewart. Okay, he's really, really good. But the way Duncan's car was going and the way he was moving around, and you know how it is, sometimes second has an advantage.
I was just going to say that. Sometimes it's better to be in second than it is to be in first.
I just had a hunch for 28 and a half of the 30 laps that Cole Duncan was going to win it. And then when he got passed by Greg Wilson, well, then I said, well, Wilson's going to win this thing. But it was so good. Great racing. Kudos to everyone at the dirt track. Last night, it was Shane Stewart made up for it. He picked up the win over David Gravel and Rico Abreu last night. Arctic Cat All-Star Circuit of Champions. Friday night at Attica, it was Dale Blaney over Byron Reed and Chad Kemena. Saturday night, Rico Abreu over Dale Blaney and Andrew Palker. So Rico getting a lot of racing here. He had a good dirt track weekend. Good to see. National Sprint League, Saturday night, Kerry Madsen, the Madman, won at Knoxville. And on Sunday at the Iowa State Fairgrounds in Des Moines, Craig Delansky, the crowd pleaser, is back and better than ever right now. He has won 2 of the last 3 or 4 National Sprint League races. So we need to dial up the crowd pleaser and see how he's going. But good to see Craig Delansky winning out there. Really, really cool. IRA bumper-to-bumper sprints. Billy Baylog picked up the win Sunday night at 141 Speedway. Neil Tire presented by Casey's General Store. MOA Sprints, Jared Hall, the first repeat winner. Port Royal Speedway, they had the 3-day, which unfortunately became the 2-day. Bob Weikert Memorial ended up being Saturday and Sunday. The Monday portion got rained out last night. It was all Greg Hodnett. Picked up the win both nights and the overall championship. But, boy, they did it up at the Speed Palace. I don't know. Have you been there?
I haven't been there in years.
My gosh, they put up brand new. I think they have seating now. I think I read this on Twitter. Grandstand seating for 6,200 people.
Wow.
They've added brand new grandstands, state-of-the-art grandstands, new facilities, new bathrooms and everything else. What Steve O'Neill is doing, I hated to see him get rained out, but I liked what I saw on Saturday and Sunday because everyone was having a great time at the Speed Palace. So we'll talk to Greg Hodnett in a little bit. Other winners along the way over the course of this weekend, River City on Friday night, it was Mark Dobmeyer. Southern Ohio Speedway, it was Brian Knuckles, his first ever Ohio Valley Sprint Car Association win. So got to get those new wins out of the way. Williams Grove, it was Lucas Wolf. Atomic Speedway, Jimmy Stinson. Badlands Motor Speedway, they had a big one. Terry McCarl won $10,000.
Wow.
T-Mac. Just what
They're
he needed.
paying out pretty good there at Badlands this year.
Badlands it's a very interesting dynamic what's going on in the Midwest with Badlands, Jackson, Knoxville, National Sprint League, and they all don't necessarily get along with each other.
You'll have that.
But there's a lot of money being thrown around, and in talking with the team owners in that area, everyone is loving having options.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you're
good
up
for the
toward,
racers.
it's good for the racers. It really is. And these things, as you know, they tend to sort out over time. I mean, Badlands is not going to put Knoxville out of business. Okay,
No.
that's not going to happen. Okay, if Chuck up at Badlands keeps investing in his place and keeps going like he's going, well, he's going to have a very, very good racetrack and a good following up there. And his goal, as is Todd Quering's goal at the Jackson, are to build their facilities into Knoxville-like traditions, Knoxville-like racetracks. They've invested in the facilities, but now it's just over time they can do that, and they both seem to be doing really, really well. So T-Mac scored the win there. Let's see, Byron Reed won at Fremont, Chad Blond won over at Butler, Lincoln Speedway. Brian Monteith from 12th. I know he had the entire Beer Hill gang wound up about that. Twin features at Jackson. It was Ian Madsen winning both of them on Friday night for the 360s. Jonathan Cornell, Sam Hapertief Jr. got wins in the ASCS Regional Tour Racing. That is your Valco Racing Wheels results page, www.valco.com. Made by racers for racers, Valco Racing Wheels. Stay with us. Greg Wilson joins us next.
Winged Nation with Steve and Erin will return in just a moment on MRN.com.
The 25th year of the Lucas Oil American Sprint Car Series is about to begin.
Expanded national and regional tours, over 150 events across the United States, and some of sprint car racing's biggest names and rising stars.
The 25th anniversary of the Lucas Oil ASCS is one you don't want to miss. Find out when the American Sprint Car Series is near you in 2016 at ASCSRacing.com. Find us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter,
and catch all the action away from the track live at RacingBoys.com.
Race cars are finally tuned for maximum performance. Freightliner trucks are too, taking into account all the factors that drive your profitability and lower your real cost of ownership. Efficient aerodynamic designs paired with the integrated Detroit powertrain maximizes fuel efficiency, uptime, quality, connectivity, and safety to give truckers peace of mind and a better return on investment. Find out how to lower your real cost of ownership at rco.freightlinertrucks.com.
If it's hard to stop or you hear squealing and grinding noises during braking, stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts. You'll find the brake parts you need from trusted brands like Brake Best Select, and Wagner Thermo Quiet at everyday low prices. Play it safe with brake parts from O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices, every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires will get you there, whether you're running on dirt or running a job. Our dependable, high-quality tires are the perfect fit for your needs. For unmatched value, selection, and warranty with industry-leading road hazard protection, there's only one choice: Hercules Tires. To learn more, visit HerculesTire.com or call 800-677-9535. Hercules Tires, ride on our strength.
This is Winged Nation on MRN.com. Now, back to Steve Post and Erin Evernham.
Thank you so much for joining us. Erin Evernham and Steve Post here, having a great time. We just found out that Winged Nation, for whatever reason, here the noon hour on Tuesday is trending in Charlotte. So, yes, thank you very much. Number one in Charlotte on, that's right.
Sweet.
Oh, a smattering of applause there. How about that? So they must have known that the big winner from Friday night is joining us. He drives that Hercules Tire car. Greg Wilson is on the line. Hello, Greg. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Well, Greg, I want to talk about the good, but man, I'll tell you what, dude, you have had a roller coaster ride over the last 7 days. We'll certainly talk about that win on Friday night, but what's it been like the last 7 days of your life?
Well, honestly, pretty typical of a first-year rookie outlaw. I mean,
yeah.
We're seeing so many different tracks and so many different situations, and we missed a show, we win a race, then we missed a show last night. you and I talked there at Charlotte, and that's the part where you got to keep a level head and not get too stressed out about. Just keep right in the middle, keep even keel. Not to get too high, not get too low, and just keep plugging and learning. And but it's definitely been a roller coaster.
I saw where you said after New Egypt that you almost felt like you don't even belong out here anymore. I mean, you certainly, after all the success you've had in your career, you can't really feel that strongly. I mean, I know how the mental challenges go being a rookie in the Outlaw series, but you really aren't considering ever packing it up, are you?
Heck no. It's just more so a figure of speech, if you know what I mean. I mean, we knew what we were getting into, and we feel like that we know some of the tracks that we should have some good runs at, and we need to try to capitalize on that. And we get into situations that we've never seen before, or situations that we haven't been good at in the past couple of years. And I mean, last night it was really, really rough. I didn't do my job qualifying. Didn't run through the holes. The guys that ran it like they were, a bunch of cowboys and bounced through the holes were way better. I just didn't do my job. We go to a place like Charlotte, big, sweeping, smooth, slicked off. We have a pretty good package for that, and normally the driver does pretty fair. It's just part of this series. To me, it's what makes it the toughest. It's what why these drivers that have done this for years and win races on every different condition, every different track, what makes them exceptional.
Boy, it is. It is amazing the challenges you get, that's for sure. Okay, Greg, so we try to maintain even keel, okay, and we've already covered the low of lows, but dude, when you picked a time to win, you picked the right time to do it, Charlotte. Of course, all of your friends from Hercules, we saw actually other sponsors, you had a full course. How tough is it not to keep those highs from just making you explode?
The times of getting your rear end kicked, to be honest.
Really, yeah.
This were, just like I said, just look at my last 7 days. This sprint car racing and is very humbling. Any kind of racing is. But the fortunate part about this schedule is that you don't get much downtime. So as much as we would like to have just had yesterday off because we didn't do any good and we won Friday night, so we could enjoy it, we're right back at it. And this sport will keep you grounded. But man, what a deal at Charlotte. Still, honestly, still not comprehending what happened. It happened as far as the race went. It happened very quick. As far as getting a lead and leading, half a lap or whatever it was. But to have everybody there, the people that have helped put me in this position to get to do this with the folks at Hercules Tire and Ohio Logistics has been a long-time supporter of this team, and all those folks were in the house, and Chuck Bills has been tremendous for our sport, and to have them there and to celebrate and them to be a part of a win like that was pretty big, and a lot of people have helped get me here. DNC Hydraulics and the Conway family, Merle Warnemont and All-Star Plumbing, which was a car owner for a long time, still affiliated, a part of our team. He loves Charlotte. I mean, he literally texted me that he was in tears. So, to have that kind of impact on the people that basically have given me this opportunity, it's just awesome to give that back to them.
Greg, you look like you were strong from the get-go at Charlotte on Friday night, right from heat races, qualifying. At what point in the feature did you feel like, man, I might be able to win this? Was it just those last few laps where you kind of took off?
Well, I don't know really when it was. There was a couple of cautions there, and we went with just a little bit harder tire on the right rear, and we walked up before, and they had filled up the top and the bottom, but they kind of left it where if it cleaned off, I felt like we were going to be better at the end where the track actually got clean. And I don't know, there was 11 laps in at the one caution. I remember looking up the board and I'm thinking, well, we're maintaining right now, and we should get better as it goes. And then they had a caution right there with like maybe 6 to go. And under the caution, I don't know if you kind of gassed it and tried to keep the tires warmed up. And when I did, it kind of stuck. And I was like, okay, well, here we go. We're going to be okay. And, it's one of them feelings as a race car driver, any driver out there listening would know what I'm talking about. I mean, you just kind of knew that, may not win, but we're going to be okay. And then when Cole and Shane, they were having a heck of a race, and we were kind of able to sneak up on them, and then they got to racing each other. It just kind of, was pretty blessed and fortunate that it played out the way that it did. They got to racing each other, got some air off each other, and gave us an opening, and we were able to be good enough to capitalize on it.
So do you think the harder tire, or did you find some rubber down there on the bottom of the track?
I don't know. I've heard guys say that it took rubber, but I mean, I've been on rubber down racetracks. That place was abrasive. It's always been, when it gets flicked off, it's always abrasive. It's a little harder on tires. I think the harder tire helped. I think the biggest thing is that it cleaned off enough to where you weren't running on the marbles, and I could enter pretty good and then come off into moisture off the bottom of two. There was a strip of moisture right along the tires, and that's what we hit to get by those guys. So I don't think it really. My opinion would be that it didn't rubber down. It was getting abrasive and cleaned off, and maybe if it had been a longer race, it would have really laid rubber down. But I think it just got abrasive. I mean, we raced 3 wide all night long from the drop of the green flag in the heat races. The racing was good. The racing was good right up to the end of the feature, and I was just fortunate to come out on the right end of it is all.
Greg, and this is where I love sitting here with Erin, because Erin, a driver, you're a driver, you can talk about all this stuff, and then I have to sit here and try to figure out what you two are talking about. When you say cleaned off, okay, I think I understand it, but is it something you see or is it something you feel? What is the first hint that maybe it's cleaned off in a certain line of the racetrack?
Well, like if you walk up and it track's really dusty,
mm-hmm.
and you can see dust laying on top and it's black underneath, or whatever, silty laying on top. When that starts cleaning off, and like as a fan you're watching, and the dust starts to settle down, that we call that cleaning off. So that some of the marbles and stuff aren't on the racetrack, and when those, it's just no different than driving on snow. When you're running on them marbles, you kind of slip and slide, and once that thing actually cleans off and the track seals over, it actually, you're not riding on them marbles. So if your car's stuck and you can pedal it, you don't rely on a curb around the top or just a wet strip somewhere, and you can run through that clean part of the racetrack. But it's like I said, the marbles laying on top of the racetrack and the silty stuff, once it cleans off and blows away, I call that cleaned off.
So were you one of the few drivers that went with a harder tire, or did a lot of the guys go with harder tires?
It sounded, from what I've heard, there was quite a few guys that went with a little harder tire. Like I said, that place, notoriously, it's a little bit abrasive, even when there's a lot of moisture in the racetrack. It tends to work on tires a little bit. But I think everybody, with the late model race being first and kind of seeing the way the track was headed, I think everybody felt like that with that much speed and stuff that it was going to take a little harder tire.
Exciting stuff, it really is. And you talk about the challenges of going to places you're not familiar with, like a New Egypt Speedway. The good news for you is Fremont is up next, a track you have a little bit more of a notebook on. And I'd love to chat with you about it, but unfortunately the clock is just is telling us we need to cut you loose. But good luck at Fremont and I-96 this weekend as the tour continues. And as always, thanks for joining us here on Winged Nation.
Hey, I just want to say thanks to all the fans. And thanks to everyone who supports our team and your show. And it's pretty cool to be a part of sprint car racing. And I feel pretty blessed and pretty fortunate. And you guys have a great week.
You too. That's Greg Wilson joining us here on the program. So exciting to see what's happening with him and his race team as they continue to navigate a rookie season on the World of Outlaw Craftsman Sprint Car Tour. We need to step away from one Greg to another. Greg Hodnett joins us next.
Hi, I'm Dale Blaney, and you're listening to Winged Nation on MotorRacingNetwork.com.
Racers, that's who Valco wheels are. That's who they know, and racing is what they know. Valco Wheels focuses oval track and grassroots racing, and understand racers need a quality wheel that fits your budget. With over 25 years experience, Valco Wheels produces the best product and give you face-to-face support and customer service at the track. Fast delivery, innovative products, problem solving. Find Valco Wheels at Valco.com on Twitter or Facebook, or call Valco Wheels at 609-758-7013. Valco Wheels.
Hi, I'm Jeff Gordon. Did you know that 43 children are diagnosed with cancer each and every day? That more children die from cancer than any other disease? Athletes of all ages are dedicating their stats to change these stats, and you can too. Visit JeffGordonChildren'sFoundation.org to become a Kick It champion. No matter what sport, you can use your points, laps, or goals to change the odds for kids with cancer. Make your stats really count. Become a Kick It champion.
Saturday night at Port Royal Speedway, it's Moonshine Camo Night with the Appalachian Mountain Dirt Late Model Speed Week Series going 40 laps for $4,000 to win. Plus, the Super Sprint Cars and the Blockbuster program caps off with an Extreme Stock feature. Admission is just $22, with students 12 to 18 just $7. Port Royal Speedway, located between State College and Harrisburg in central Pennsylvania, just off of US Route 322 along PA Route 75. Visit PortRoyalSpeedway.com for details or follow us on Twitter and Facebook.
Time now for a look at a great American dirt track presented by another great American dirt track, the Speed Palace, Port Royal Speedway.
This is Ashley Stremme. It started as a dream for a number of race fans, drivers, car owners, and businessmen. It got its name from a nearby uranium enrichment plant. Atomic Speedway in Chillicothe, Ohio was built in 1953. The 3/8 mile dirt track has been called the Indy 500 of dirt track racing, hosting many of the first ever 5,000 to win races in the country. Large events in the 1970s, such as the Buckeye 100 and the Atomic 100, would attract drivers from across the Midwest to take on Atomic's high banks. Once known as KC Speedway and having gone through a number of owners, Atomic Speedway has hosted the World of Outlaws, is a mainstay on the All-Star Circuit of Champions Tour, and has some of the strongest weekly racing fields in the Midwest. Dale Blaney, reigning champion of the Arctic Cat All-Star Circuit of Champions, said of Atomic Speedway that his favorite attributes in a track are banking and getting slick and wide. Atomic has all of that. Atomic Speedway, a great American dirt track brought to you by another great American dirt track, the Speed Palace, Port Royal Speedway.
Oh, man, it's great, Casey. You lit up when you heard Ashley talking about it.
Love that racetrack. And yesterday, when we were road tripping home in our motorhome, we went right through Chillicothe, and we saw these dirt cars headed in different directions. And Ray said, "Hey, you want to stop by KC Raceway?" Because that's what I knew it as.
KC, yeah.
So funny that was our racetrack of the week.
That's funny. That really is. Now, what you can do if you have a favorite. There we go. Favorite Atomic memory or Atomic story at the top of the hour if you're watching this live, or whenever if you're watching this delayed. Go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/wingnation, and tell us your favorite story. Last week we did River City, and people sent video. They attached, you know how they do that? They attached video of that race a few years ago where Kinzer and Schatz just went at each other. And I'm like, oh, my God, this is, when we put this thing together, this is what, the newbie here. I mean, I'm the guy that hasn't seen River City. I haven't seen KC. And it's
another great track.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, this is what I want to see from these things. So those of you that put them on there last week for River City, if you've got a story or, my gosh, if you have a video, I mean, I can't even imagine that. But from Atomic Speedway, and that's on our Facebook page at facebook.com/atomic. It's really cool.
My Atomic Speedway story
is, what's yours?
I raced so hard with Mark Kinzer there, like slider after slider, 'cause it's a nice, wide, high bank track. It's really fun. We raced like we were going for $1 million to win, and I think it was for like 15th. But regardless, it was this great battle we had. And after that, I think we talked about it a few weeks back that I had to kind of earn Carl's respect. And that night, I think, kind of helped. That and the ice cream, of course.
Strawberry ice cream.
But that was, I'll never forget it. It was like a great battle. Like, I remember coming off the track, like, I was worn out. Like, that was like every bit of me. And it was for 15th.
Wow. But that's the thing. That's what's so exciting about it. But a good wide racetrack allows you to do that.
Yeah. So much fun.
The thing I like about what's going on up there is that it had shut down and been back and forth, and now it's back and seems like very, very strong. Everything they're doing up there is really good, so that's good. So, again, go to Facebook.com/WingNation and share with us your favorite Atomic Speedway story. Joining us on the Classic Ink Screen Printing and Embroidery Hotline is the driver that picked up the win. In the white, yes, two. That's right, two. Up at Port Royal at the Speed Palace, Greg Hodnett's on the line. Hello, Greg. How are you?
Hey, really good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
We catch you on the way to or from the bank?
Neither. My wife has got those checks, and I'll never see the money again. So I'm not even involved.
I know how that works.
That's exactly right.
So tell us about the weekend. Unfortunately, I didn't really get to catch both, just looked at results.
Bless her heart, Greg. She was at Indianapolis for the Indy 500.
I was suffering through Indy.
Yeah, that was a tough gig. I hate you had to suffer this weekend, but I guess if you had to, that's one place to do it. No, Erin, our weekend was very good. Actually, our whole week and a half has been pretty consistent. But the Weikert Memorial was a great event. The Weikert family did an awesome job of trying to get everything together. And even I got as much as I hate to do it, I'm going to have to say Danny Dietrich did a really nice job. Because he was kind of like promoting, helping get organized stuff, and he did a really good job on getting things done and made it exciting, made it interesting. And I think, again, I got to thank the Weikert family, of course, Danny, and then my team, because they did a great job all weekend and put us up front.
The thing, and we had Danny on our MAV TV show last week talking about it. And what Danny thought was interesting, and I want to ask you about, was the fact that 3 different formats. And I know one of your nights got rained out. So, what formats did you do, and what were your thoughts on how they worked out? I mean, obviously, it worked out at the end for you, but did the formats work out as throughout the night as you'd hoped?
I think so. I mean, the first night was passing points for the heat races on a draw, which was kind of like an ASCS passing point system, and we were fortunate enough to start far enough back in our heat, which was 6, and win our heat, so we actually had high points there, so it worked out pretty good. It's a challenging format, but, if you get a decent draw and have your car decent, it can work out really well, which it did for us, and that put us in a redraw for the feature inversion, which I think we started 6th in that one also. And then the next night we came back and did qualifications, similar to last year's Outlaw format qualifications. So we did it that way, and it worked out where we were in the top 2 of the heat there to get into a dash redraw, which put us in 5th starting position, and we were able to take advantage of that good starting spot to be able to win the second night. And then the last night, which probably worked out really good for us because they were on just a redraw thing, which is kind of our normal thing around Williamsburg or around the Northeast when we don't have handicapping. And the unfortunate part is I drew last in our heat, 9th, and had to get up to the top 3 to get into a redraw position. So it was going to be really tough yesterday. So the rain probably didn't hurt my feelings as much as it did somebody else's. So unique formats. But fortunately for us, the result was the same, so it kind of worked out. But we had a really good car to adapt to all those situations, and I think that was the key to the weekend.
Greg, speaking about format changes and things, I wanted to pick your brain about the new rule changes this year because I've always really respected you as not only as a driver, but also as engineering minded. What are your thoughts on the new wider tire that you can run in the Wicker Bill?
Well, the wider tire, in all honesty, we've only run that one time, and we did it at Ocala, the first race of the season at the All-Stars, because it was just an organized hot lap session. It's a race, don't get me wrong, we want to win, but everybody was kind of in the same boat, and we're going to try it out. So we figured, well, if everybody's trying it out, we need to try it out too and see where we're at and what we have to do. And it felt good in some ways and felt not so good in others. It seemed like, and again, one night of experience doesn't qualify us as a team as an expert on this tire, but what it seemed like is it took too long to get going for us. So I would, in that particular race, we had started somewhere up front, and I couldn't get going, got passed by a couple guys, 6 or 7 laps into it, passed those guys back, and going through a lead, yellow comes out, I get passed by 2 or 3 guys, 6 laps later, I pass them back, so it just seemed like it took too long to get going. So what happens is, around our area, and especially in qualifying, it didn't seem like that was going to be a good alternative for us to qualify or run in heat races. So what happens, and Erin, you know, what happens around here, how you do in your heat race is a big indicator of where you're going to start in the feature. Even though we are handicapped, you still have to finish in the top 3 of your heat. So if you start 10th in your heat at Williams Grove, you still have to get the top 3 to be allowed to start 12th in the feature through handicapping. So either way, we cannot wait at all to get going, because usually what happens, wherever you're running after the second, maybe probably the first corner, maybe the second corner, it's pretty much how the heat race ends.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to make things happen pretty quickly. And it didn't seem for our program and what we run, that tire was a viable option. So, and it takes a different setup. So what we've found is, hey, we're just going to kind of stick to what we're doing and let everybody else beat us, and then we'll change. And that's kind of what we've done.
It's working.
So far, I guess that's not happened yet. Are there a lot of other drivers playing around with that tire, though, Greg, that you're seeing? Or don't you know?
A lot of the all-star guys in Ohio are doing it. And I think that's one of the big things is Chad Kimenow's brother, Brian, runs Kistler. And they talk to a lot of people, and I think he's a big advocate of it, and they have a really good package for it because they've been running it all year, and they haven't strayed from it at all, actually. So it's worked out really well for their circumstances, but in their circumstances with the All-Stars, it's a different format, and that format allows you not to be quick time. And what happens is if you're qualifying against your 8 or 9 guys in your heat races, as long as you're in the top 5 or top 4, you can start on the front of the heat, and if you can kind of fake it or whatever, get by, then that's fine. You get into a dash if you win the heat, or I think it's running first or second. I can't remember exactly, but it allows you to be in a better position in your heat race to do it. The only thing I've noticed with Chad and those guys, although they are running fantastic all year, is even in the Outlaw shows they've run well at, they haven't qualified well enough to be in the dash, which puts them starting 11th to 12th. And if the racetrack is not conducive to a lot of passing, or if they may miss a little bit, although they did a great job at Eldora and probably had the car to beat at the end of the race, they also had to start 11th and 12th outside of those dash positions. So I think you're giving up, on average, too much in qualifying to do it. Those guys have got it figured out way better than anybody, and even they struggled at Outlaw shows when you have to qualify well to get up front. So I think there's advantages to it, especially if you have a really good package for it, but we just don't have a good package. And everybody else around here is pretty much the same way. They try it once or twice, just if they're in the middle or back of a race and say, you know what, we're just going to try it. And some guys say, yeah, it's all right, whatever. Brent Marks was running it for a while, and he won a race on it at Port Royal, but it was really dry, really slick, really slow, and abrasive. So it kind of was conducive to a harder tire anyway. So, and other than that, I don't know that anybody's won one-on-one around here. So I don't know if it's for everybody, but, you know, some guys are going really good with it, just how your package is.
Well, and you said until you start getting beat by it, so far that's worked out pretty well because they're not been doing it on a regular basis. As you're off to a fantastic start as always, Greg. As we look forward down the road, what are you running for points at the Grove, or what is your big picture game plan for the summer? I'm assuming there's a trip to Knoxville involved in that. What's your big picture plan as far as the summer goes?
Well, obviously our big trip is Knoxville, and then at the end of the year we usually go down to Charlotte, and kind of anything that we can pick and choose in between. But what happens for us is if we're kind of not in the hunt for the Williams Grove point, we don't really run any other points championship. So if Williams Grove, which usually pays $20,000, this year it's actually $18,000 to win. If we're in the running for it, we'll try to achieve that because we always go to Knoxville. We always give up a race. And at times that costs us up to 300 points for just that one night. But to go to Knoxville and to compete there, it's worth that to me, and to our team. So we know we're going to give up to 300 points. So if we're not even close to the other guys that aren't going to go to Knoxville and do those kind of things, then we won't worry about it. So a lot of it's dictated on how we're doing at that particular time when the races come up, like Eldora, the Brad Doty, some things like that we've talked about going to. But it's all indicative of what's going on that day and how we're sitting. So our pretty much schedule is, hey, let's flip a coin on Saturday morning and see where we're going Saturday night. And we have enough options to where we can do that, and that's kind of how our whole schedule is. We kind of have a baseline to where we pretty much run Friday at the road, Port on Saturday, and then if we want to change, we change.
Great to have those options, and great start to the season, Greg. As always, a pleasure to talk with you. What happened to your Twitter? You're no longer on there, or what? We don't ever see you anymore.
No, I just haven't done a whole lot of it. I was doing some old stuff of my dad and
that's right,
my mom and things like that, and I don't really do a lot of stuff of me. I just like to do it of my family and things like that. So I'll try to get back on that and and get you up to date on what's going on, Steve.
I know. I'm losing touch with what the latest diet craze is for you and everything else. So oh well, it's all good.
Hey, I am down 21 pounds since January though.
Good for you, dude. Good for you.
Get down there.
Nicely done. Well, then that's good. I'm glad to hear that. I really am. That's good. As a guy that's losing some along the way myself here, it's good to hear that I'm not alone doing that. Greg, a pleasure. Hopefully the game plan is maybe I'll get a chance to catch up with you this weekend as I'm going to hit some races up there. Hopefully I can catch up with you in person. But thanks for joining us here on Winged Nation.
Hey, I appreciate you guys having me, and again, you're doing a good job with the weight thing, man. I've been paying attention.
Thanks you. I appreciate it. That is Greg Hodnett joining us here. Classic Ink pole position, screen printing and embroidery. Classic Ink, of course, great sweatshirts, hoodies, towels, hats, and more. ClassicInkUSA.com. That's www.classicinkusa.com. Greg, of course, joining us on the Hercules Tire Hotline. You got to love, as an engineering background, you got to love when Hodnett's breaking down everything from points to starting spots to tires to everything else.
I love it. That's why I wanted to ask him about the changes, because I knew he would have a descriptive, very analytical description of why not to run the tire, why he wants to. I've always loved trying to pick his brain, not just as a driver, but setup-wise, everything. He's my kind of brain.
He's one of the guys that I go to when I have a question about it as well. And ironically, there's two of them, him and Dietrich, both in Pennsylvania. They're just guys that I think give you straight up what's going on, what they think. Greg more on the car, Danny more on the sport as far as that goes. But it's just really, really good. And until they start beating him, it looks like he's staying with the same tire. And thus far, they haven't been beating him. We need to step away. When we come back, Sprint Car and Midget Magazine, Doug Auld joins us from that fine publication coming up next.
Hi, I'm Craig Kinzer, and you're listening to Winged Nation on MotorRacingNetwork.com.
Friday nights, it's all sprint cars. Saturday nights, it's IMCA modifieds and stock cars. Both nights is affordable family fun for the entire family. Witness incredible speeds, awesome power, and great side-by-side action at the all-new Jackson Motorplex. Be there Friday night as the Spirit Lake Silver and Gold NSL 410 sprint cars return, along with the Last Deck 360s and the Race Saver 305 sprinters. Hot laps at 7:30 with racing to follow. Saturday night, it's IMCA modifieds and stock cars. Hot laps at 7. The all-new Jackson Motorplex in Jackson, Minnesota, where kids 12 and under are free. Be there.
Classic Ink USA Screen Printing and Embroidery is constantly testing the limits of custom racewear and specialized embroidery. Headquartered in Western Pennsylvania, Classic Ink holds the highest standard, maximizing your return as well as the ultimate customer satisfaction. From track swag fanwear to quick crew crewwear, Classic Ink has you covered. Their dedicated staff and designers will keep your race team and fans looking sharp. Contact Classic Ink today and get your team ahead of the competition. www.classicinkusa.com. That's Classic Ink, at the track and on your back.
For a professional option of moving your trucks and heavy equipment safely, effectively, and on time, you can count on Housby Transport. We serve nationwide and global industry-leading companies through a network of experienced carriers. We provide both drive-away and hauling service, regardless of equipment size. We handle all permitting, making your transport and logistics job that much easier. For more information or to request a quote, contact us today at housby.com.
I'm Casey Kane. Now back to Winged Nation.
Thank you, Casey. We are having a blast. We're glad you joined us here, and I love going to the mailbox. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, you see I'm holding it up. on my latest edition of Sprint Car and Midget magazine. I love going to the mailbox and grabbing that out and seeing when it
Me
comes.
too.
And I really love seeing Dominic Selzy on the cover this time because we just love Dominic, Gary, and the whole family and everyone. And joining us now is the main guru and chief cat herder, if you will. I think that's what we called him last time. The publisher and editor, Doug Auld, joins us. Hello, Doug. Welcome back to the show.
Oh, it's great to be back, Steve. Always good to be on. And you're really a player. Every time I come on, you've got a different pretty girl, so I never know who I'm going to get. So I guess you got...
You know,
Erin there. How you doing, Erin?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
Good.
Smattering of applause again in the background from our peanut gallery. Exactly. I'm lucky. I always on our radio show, I always have someone good to look at. So I mean, it works for me. Hey, Doug. You know what? I loved your column in this week's edition, and it's. I know a year and a half ago when Tony Stewart announced he was taking over the All-Stars, we all proclaimed victory, and which we tend to do. We get all fired up about it. You kind of waited a year and a half here to make sure everything is going well, but your column, they're back. What makes this so special about what Tony and the All-Stars have been able to do?
Well, I think a number of the drivers, even if you talk to some of the regulars, Dale Blaney, and I shouldn't drag Dale into this, but some of the other drivers adopted the same attitude where, let's see if it's good. Let's see how it works out. I think we've all learned over the years there are so many guys who come in and they're going to set the world on fire and they're going to do the new best, greatest thing, and you kind of got to wait and see how it works out. I think one of the best things about the All-Stars over the last year is that there has been no controversy. There's been a really great group. Donnie Graby, what a great guy to bring on board. The operation got back to where everybody was sure the point fund was going to be paid. No new gimmicks, no new celebrity spokesmodels that actually weren't even celebrities, but all the weird things that were going on for the last several years under the previous ownership is all gone. The All-Stars is a really, really important series, especially this part of the country. And, it really is a place for guys on the way up and the guys on the way down. And you look at the drivers who have come out and come through that series, guys like Brad Doty, guys like Joey Saldana. The All-Stars were instrumental in Joey's career. And it's a place where you can race against guys who have run with the Outlaws, and you can race on several different tracks, yet the cost factor's right and the travel factor's right. Bert Emick used to draw a circle, and it was about a 4-hour circle, 5-hour circle that, a lot of his guys had to be work on Monday. So you could drive to that race and then drive home and be back to work. And but in the meantime, as an up-and-coming driver, you were learning to race on a lot of different size and type racetracks, and you were racing against some really stout competition. Meanwhile, you had the name recognition where the fans got great shows just like they do today. You've got some real star power with the series. And so it's really back. I mean, the controversy's gone, the weirdness is gone, there's sanity has been restored, I guess, to the All-Stars.
Doug, I don't get to the dirt track nearly as much as I would like to anymore, but I know you do. You're always at a dirt track somewhere. I always bump into you across the country.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems to me that the open wheel racing in general, the world is in a great state. It seems like it's on the rise. Especially sprint cars. I wanted to get your take on, the NSL and Midwest is strong, California is strong. I just wanted to get your take on sprint car racing in general.
Well, and one of the great things, and I'm actually just kind of steal this because I was just on the phone with Dave Argabright a couple minutes ago, and he actually brought it up, and we were discussing it seems like we've moved from one of the problems we ran into, and you know this, you're out there in the middle of it, the politics of the sport became front and center for a while there. And, I've always said you don't go to the circus and discuss the clown contract. You don't know what the clowns are being paid or what the lion tamer gets. If you go to the circus, you watch the guy walk across the wire, you watch the clowns, you have a good time, and you go home. We got to the point where our sport, we'd go and discuss the contracts and discuss, was this payment being made to these people and was, what was happening with this sanctioning body. And I think you're right. I think we've gotten to a good point where it's become where fans in the stands are now talking about the race the week before. If they're having discussions on the sanctioning body level, it's more about what do you think of the new format? What do you think of the new tire rule? And that's very, very healthy, and it's become more fun again. There are a number of new series. There are some battles going out for different territories, that's for sure. There's also some other interesting things going on. I mean, for me, one of the interesting things is a series like Sprints on Dirt. up in Michigan, and they're experimenting this year. They're running 410s and 360s together, and they're trying to get to a place where if they run the right Hoosier spec tire, that they can maybe take the horsepower out, that maybe on some tracks the 360s will hook up a little better than the 410s. Will it work? I don't know, but, it's kind of fun to watch, and I'm glad to see we're talking about things like that now instead of, who's taking over what sanctioning body or doing what where, even though we just discussed the All-Stars, but, it really is back to, the fun feels like it's back in racing again.
Very exciting, and yeah, you're right. That is a good point. We talk a lot more on track now than it seems like 2 or 3 years ago. We were talking off track more than on track, and these drivers and teams are just putting on some great racing along the way. Doug, as we look now, we're getting into the summer months. We're getting closer and closer to the month of money, whether it's with the World of Outlaws or some region of the country. Over the next month or two, what are you going to be looking at? What are you going to be looking for as we get closer and closer to the heydays, if you will, the midsummer time?
You never really know. I mean, so far this year, and I think I might have said this on the last time I was on Winged Nation with you guys, was, Brad Sweet is a guy I'm just keeping my eyes on, and right now he's right there with Donnie Schatz. I think Donnie's got one more win. I think Brad's got one more top 20 than Donnie, but Brad's leading the points, having a great year. Certainly doesn't hurt at all to have Lethal Lee, Stauffer as his crew chief this year, and those guys really seem to have clicked. He's got a great crew chief. You can't ever tell what's going to happen in the month of money. And one guy you've really got to keep your eye on is Donnie Schatz has had a few years where when he hit the month of money, he had a few where he really didn't start out that well. And he hit the month of money, and all of a sudden the switch turned on. So, he's running second in points, and Donnie's always there, one of the greatest sprint car drivers in the world. And so you got to see, just how much Donnie's game steps up. There have been other guys in the past that have stepped up, even in places like Pennsylvania, where there was a few years ago, where all of a sudden Doug Esch was hot. He kind of hit that month of money. He won the Williams Grove National Open up there and was winning everything at Williams Grove from then on. There seems to be with a couple guys, or sometimes with certain guys, when you hit this time period that their game comes together. So you don't really know. You could see some surprises.
Well, it's the beauty of what we do here is because you just don't know. And the good news is that they can everyone can keep updated on all the latest. SprintCarAndMidget.com is where you can find out information to get that subscription to it. Setup tips from NASA, from Hall of Famer Gary Wright, Dominic Scelzi, and a whole lot more. This edition right now is out available. So SprintCarAndMidget.com is where you can find it. Doug, we appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, anytime. Always a pleasure to be on, and thanks for having me.
You got it. That's Doug Auld, editor and publisher of Sprint Car and Midget magazine. One of the really good guys, and I love getting his big picture take on it. And I think it is fascinating that it's a very good take, and it's not surprising that him and Dave Argerbright kind of figure these things out because they're way smarter than I know a bunch of us knuckleheads here. But it is interesting because we are talking so much about, did you see that race? Did you see that track?
Yeah.
Did you see this? It's more about that than anything else. So really cool. Now this weekend, the conversation will be hot and heavy out at the famed Marion County Fairgrounds because it is the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame induction weekend. Okay, and inductees are Gene Crucian, Dale Blaney, Doug Clark, Roy Bud Grimm, Frankie Kerr, Mark Light, Gus Linder, and Shirley Keir. Going to be inducted at noon on Saturday at Knoxville. Listen to this, though. On Friday night, they're having an autographs or a reception. Now listen to this. They're going to be telling stories. Lynn Paxton, well, right there.
Yeah.
Steve Stapp, Kenny Jacobs, Ray Lee Goodwin, Alan Brown, Mike Arthur, Gene Lynch, Rick Ferkel, John Mahaney, Jack Elam, Gene Martinez, Newton Buzz Rose. They're going to be telling stories on Friday night.
Wow.
So it is a big weekend at the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame. I just got my, when I got done with my mailbox with the Sprint Car Midget, the next day this came, the hallmarks from the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum, and they continue to expand the dream, continuing to grow what they do at the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame. You can find out more information at www.sprintcarhof.com. That's sprintcarhof.com. Oh my gosh, Craig is yelling at me in my ears because we're late for a break. We need to step away. Stay with us.
Hey, this is Jason Sides, and you're listening to Steve and Kendra on Winged Nation here on MotorRacingNetwork.com.
The National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum in Knoxville, Iowa.
Honoring sprint car racing's greatest achievers.
25 historic sprint cars on display. A movie theater featuring sprint car racing films. And a breathtaking view of historic Knoxville Raceway. Go to SprintCarStuff.com for the largest sprint car gift shop on the planet. The National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum in Knoxville, Iowa.
Aggressive Hydraulics, where we engineer the cylinders that move your business. We specialize in crafting hydraulic cylinders and components with superior precision and performance, making OEM products stronger and creating more opportunities for distributors and repair facilities. Crafting cylinders that operate on a global basis in a wide variety of industries and applications. Get aggressive with your cylinder challenges. Aggressive Hydraulics.
If it's hard to stop or you hear squealing and grinding noises during braking, stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts. You'll find the brake parts you need from trusted brands like Brake Best Select, and Wagner Thermo Quiet at everyday low prices. Play it safe with brake parts from O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices, every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Hi, I'm Jeff Gordon, and now back to Winged Nation.
Thank you, Jeff. Always the engineer, Erin Crocker. We have, and those of you watching on YouTube can see it, but we have on our desk a diecast, the MRN Carrie Madsen car, and what's the matter with it?
Well, the steering doesn't work. You can't have a sprint car diecast and have the wheels turned to the right. I mean, it's got to look like it's... Sorry.
Okay, there we go. There's engineer.
My OCD was bothering me. Like, those wheels should be turned to the right.
Okay. We'll get that fixed. We'll get that. We'll bring our MRN engineers in and turn the wheel to the right. So we'll get it taken care of.
Appreciate that.
Jeff Gordon's Kick-It Person of the Week. How about this one? Troy Fraker, he races up at Williams Grove. And local elementary school had a math challenge program, and as part of the reward, he brought his sprint car out, and the kids got to look at it. How about that?
That's
Isn't that
cool.
awesome?
Very cool.
Really, really cool. I wish they did that when I was in school. I might have paid attention in math. For sure, an engineer, you probably did pay attention in math. So, but Troy Fraker is our Jeff Gordon's Person of the Week, Jeff Gordon's Kick It Foundation. More information, of course, you can Google that and find out more information about it. But Troy Fraker. Hey, want to mention this, co-host of our Wing Nation weekend show. How about this? Ashley Stremme, Mrs. North Carolina.
That's impressive.
And she's posse. So I'm not sure how this works, but Mrs. North Carolina is posse. That must have put her over the top with the contest.
Obviously. And co-host of Wing Nation.
And co-host of Slinging Dirt, which is coming up right next on MRN.com. So she probably went on the stage and she said, I'm Ashley Stremme. I'm posse. That put her over the top.
Now, don't you guys have like a bet going on? Aren't you going to wear some high heels or something like that?
No. The people are losing their minds about this. This is not right. She's supposed to wear her crown sometime
and
along the way.
you wear the heels, right?
No. The world is not ready for that. That's for sure. Now, what the world is ready for, though, we've got midweek racing. Lucas Oil ASCS National Tour Wednesday night, tomorrow night at Plymouth, Indiana. That's going to be good. Yeah. Good to see. It's a little bit of a new territory for those guys. So, I mean, a lot of racers up there. And if you can't go, shame on you. But if you can't go, racingboys.com is where you need to check that out. That is Wednesday night. Thursday night, Pete Walton and his gang, USCS Speed Week, is at Talladega Short Track in East Aboga, Alabama. So, I love what Pete Walton and that group does. Want to also mention to you, and we'll look at the schedule here in just a moment, but Wing Nation Weekend is coming up later this week. Byron Reed, Fremont track champion, going to preview the World of Outlaws rolling into Fremont. And Wing Nation, presented by Sage Fruit on MAV TV. We took the cameras out last week to KKR, to Casey Kane Racing, and we will have Casey, Darren, and Brad. That is Saturday morning on MAV TV. Folks, that is really cool. Good stuff.
Yeah.
So, absolutely great. So, hey, let's talk about it coming up this weekend. World of Outlaw Craftsman Sprint Cars, Friday at Fremont, Saturday at I-96. National Sprint League, Jackson, Minnesota on Friday night, Knoxville on Saturday. Articat, Saturday, Atomic Speedway in Chillicothe, our featured track this week. And Sunday, Bedford Speedway, which means some of the posse guys will go west to check that one out. Bumper-to-bumper IRA Sprints, they have a pair of them. Cedar Lake on Saturday night and Angel Park on Sunday. King of the West is at Silver Dollar Speedway. Lucas Oil ASCS National Tour after their midweek show. They're in Hartford, Michigan and Brownstown, Indiana this weekend. Weekly 410 racing. Boy, we've got a bunch of them. Jacksonville, Illinois, Lernerville, Pennsylvania, River City Speedway in Grand Forks, North Dakota. Skyline Speedway in Stewart, Ohio, and Williams Grove. That's just Friday night. Saturday night, Atomic, Badlands Motor Speedway, Butler, Devils Lake Speedway, Lincoln, Mercer, Port Royal, St. Francis, Wayne County Speedway. Ay, ay, ay. Going to be following along all weekend long. Going to break our Twitter machine following along with us.
Well, be trending again.
Trending again. That's right. We're trending. How about that? We're trending in Charlotte, #1. So, hey, it's been great fun as Erin. As always, Erin, great fun hanging out.
Thank you.
You got it. Great fun. Glad you had a good trip to Indy. That is really, really cool. Hey, we appreciate Greg Wilson, Greg Hodnett, and Doug Auld joining us here on MRN Winged Nation, presented by Hercules Tires here on the Motor Racing Network. But more important than all of that, thank you for joining us here on the show this week.
You've been listening to the nation's premier winged sprint car radio program, Winged Nation. Tune in next Tuesday at noon for more talk from the dirt tracks. Winged Nation is also available on demand in the MRN.com Media Center or download from iTunes or Stitcher. Winged Nation is a production of the Motor Racing Network. All rights reserved.